The legendary Pokemon Entei, Suicune, and Raikou are going to be returning to Pokemon GO raids during this week. And in this video, I'm going to be providing some pro tips on how you can take down these raid bosses, as well as giving you some advice for why you should actually care about them. Alright, what's happening everyone? Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon GO video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about the legendary beasts. These include Entei, Suicune, and Raikou, and they are quite iconic when it comes to legendary Pokemon. Now, of course, over time, their relevance has drastically declined, and that is of course because of so many different Pokemon that have come over the years. And I think even though they are not necessarily going to be top tier anymore, I still think they are worth raiding for, mainly because of the candies that you can get from them, and you could use those candies to power up the shadow versions of these Pokemon, which are actually quite good. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. Let me go over the best counters and the best tips for each and every single one of these raid bosses, and then afterwards I'll be sharing some general tips for you to use. Let's start this off by talking about Entei, which is a fire type legendary Pokemon, which means it's going to be weak against ground type, rock type, and water type attacks. And just like other fire types, it's going to be resistant to grass type, bug type, fairy type, ice type, steel type, and fire type attacks, so avoid bringing any Pokemon with those moves. Now, when it comes to perfect IVs, you will want one that is 1984, and then if it's weather boosted, it's going to be 2480. And Entei is going to be weather boosted by sunny weather. And if you want to secure the win against an Entei raid, you will want to have a raid lobby that consists of 4 trainers that are at least level 30 with all of their Pokemon that are at least level 30. And if you want to challenge yourself, you can duo this raid boss. Just make sure you and your raid partner are at least level 40 and you're bringing the best counters. Speaking of which, let's go over those right now. So with Entei, it's pretty straightforward. You will want to go with your best ground types or water types, but I do suggest going with ground types because when it comes to raw DPS, there's going to be a lot better options when it comes to ground types. So in terms of Mega Evolutions, you have 2 really good options, Primal Kyogre or Primal Groudon, but if you do not have either of these, you could also go with a ground type Mega Evolution or even a water type Mega Evolution like Mega Swampert. And then when it comes to the counters, you will want to go with Shadow Groudon or Shadow Rhyperior. Both of those are going to be the hardest hitters. And in particular with these Pokemon, make sure you go with ground type attacks, but with Rhyperior, you could also go with Smackdown, which is a rock type attack. And then of course there is also Landorus, the Terrian form, that is going to be a top ground type raid attacker. Just make sure you're going with ground type attacks. And then when it comes to budget counters, if you do not have any legendaries or shadow Pokemon that you could use, you could go with Exadrills, Rhyperiors, as well as Tyranitar with rock type attacks. Any of these are going to be incredibly good against Entei, and do keep in mind that this raid boss is not that difficult. So as long as you're bringing the best counters for any of these types, you're going to be good to go. And then next up, let's move on to Suicune, which is going to be the water type legendary beast. And unfortunately for Suicune, this is probably the least popular raid boss out of the 3, so I do expect that less players are going to care about this particular Pokemon. But if you do want to raid Suicune, just keep in mind that it is only weak against electric and grass type attacks, and it's going to be resistant to fire, ice, steel, and water type attacks. If you want a perfect IV of Suicune, you will want to find one that is 1704, and if it's weather boosted, it's going to be 2130, and Suicune is weather boosted by rainy weather. And if you want to secure the win, it's going to require the same number of trainers as Entei. You're going to want to have at least 4 trainers that are at least level 30, and if you want to challenge yourself, you can duo this raid boss. And then when it comes to the best counters, this is actually quite a unique list. You will for sure want to go with Mega Sceptile as your Mega Evolution. This is probably the hardest hitting Pokemon against this specific raid boss, and you do want to make sure you have it. And then when it comes to non-Mega Evolution counters, Regieleki with its new signature move is going to be incredibly good against Suicune, and actually something that's very interesting is that Shadow Regigigas is also a really good Pokemon to use against Suicune. Just go with the grass type fast attack that it can come with. And then there is also Xurkitree and Kartana, which are both really solid counters to water-type Pokemon. Those are also great options for this raid boss. And then if you do not have any of these Pokemon, you could of course just go with Electivire. It's one of the top hitting electric type Pokemon in the game that's not a legendary or a shadow. And if you happen to have the shadow version of Electivire, that's going to be even better. And then finally, this leaves us with the last remaining legendary beast, which is going to be Raikou, and it's an electric type. This is probably the most popular out of the three, because even to this day, Raikou can still be a top counter when it comes to electric types. But the thing is, with this raid, it's only going to be weak against one type, and that is of course ground types. So if you are going to be raiding Raikou and Entei, maybe you could just form a team of just your best ground types, and that'll be good enough for both of these raids. And just like with the other two, if you want to secure the win, you could do it with 4 trainers that are at least level 30, and if you want to challenge yourself, you can duo this raid boss, and I do think this one is probably the easiest out of the 3. And then of course with perfect IVs, you will want one that is 1972, and if it's weather boosted, it's going to be 2466. This is one of those Pokemon where getting 100% IV might actually be worth it, so make sure you're looking out for these particular CPs. And of course, Raikou, just like Suicune, is going to be weather boosted by rainy weather. And if you look at the best counters and the budget counters, they're pretty much identical to Entei, except minus the water types and rock types. You will want to go with, of course, Primal Groudon, but if you do not have Primal Groudon, Mega Garchomp is actually a really solid option. And then speaking of Garchomp, Shadow Garchomp is also a really solid Pokemon to use alongside Shadow Groudon, and of course Terran Form Landorus as well. Now the reason why Garchomp is something to highlight when it comes to this raid boss is that Garchomp also has the Dragon typing, which is going to be resistant to some of Raikou's hardest hitting moves. So that is definitely something you could keep in mind for this particular raid boss. Even though the other ground types will be resistant, Garchomp in particular is double resistant to electric type attacks. Basically speaking, when it comes to Raikou, Garchomp is kind of like the secret weapon. So if you want to go at this raid boss and have very little difficulty, I would say just have a full team of Garchomps and you will be good to go. But of course, make sure those Garchomps have ground type attacks. This is going to be a very straightforward boss that just requires ground type attacks, and it'll be taken down with ease. Alright, so in terms of taking down these raid bosses, it's very straightforward, and they are actually quite easy. I do like the fact that when it comes to Suicune, Raikou, and Entei, they do not require a lot of players. I think it was very different when they were first released into Pokemon GO. Back then, we did not have a whole bunch of Pokemon that we could use. We didn't even have Mega Evolutions. So yeah, these raids were quite difficult back then, but now they are quite easy. It's a great way for you to farm up rare candies and Rare Candy XL, but on top of that, if you were to collect the candies for these Pokemon and land yourself a really good shadow version of it, then you're going to be good to go. And I really do think that is one of the big reasons why you should actually raid for these Pokemon. And then on top of that, their shiny forms are still sought after to this day. I think a lot of people do ask for shiny Raikou and shiny Entei in particular. And I think for that reason, maybe if you want to give yourself a couple of trade chips, then yeah, farm up some of those shinies. So yeah, I think this is going to be a fun week of raiding. I think all 3 of these Pokemon, even though they're not necessarily relevant anymore, they're still pretty fun to raid. So yeah, I do look forward to that, and I really hope this raid guide was helpful for you. But in any case, that's going to be it for this video. Definitely share your thoughts regarding these 3 legendary Pokemon down below. Is there any one of them that you are going to be focusing in on this week, or do you feel like this is going to be a week where you're just going to skip out on legendary raids? Definitely share your thoughts. I would definitely like to hear them. I look forward to seeing them in the comment section down below. Let's have a great discussion. And thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if it's your first time here, and also don't forget that notification bell so you know exactly when I upload videos. And real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel, if you want to support everything that I do, the best way you could do that is going to be by joining my Patreon. And if you decide to become a paid Patreon member, I'm actually going to add you to my Pokemon GO friends list. So that means for stuff like remote raids, the friendship system, opening and sending gifts, all that good stuff. If you want to play Pokemon Go with me, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And if you want to support my channel in a completely different way, you could do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms you see right now on the bottom of your screen. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow. That'll be a huge help. And that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself today, and I'll catch you all later.